So let me go through our Energy Tokens platform. Let's have a look just to get this set up. So this is what we're running. This is what Gannett's helping us with now, putting in part of the carbon emission for the token trackers. So let's look what we're trying to do with energy tokens and the technology. We're looking to transform the mechanism by which assets are acquired, held, and transferred. So, as we go through this, let's see. So what's the problem? So, if we start looking at the problem of the industry and what we're trying to solve is it's just the way energy assets have been acquired, held, and transferred has not changed over 100 years. So ultimately, if you think about it, if you have to buy interest, so our company's IN now, I've been doing this company for 6 years now. We've acquired interests probably about 90 wells we own interests in now as well, in Texas and in Indiana. And that's the two places we have our assets. So when we went to acquire interests, part of our Zion tokenized fund, and we've gone through the process. So, we're set up as an operator in the state of Indiana. We had to go through the process to see all the pain points, understand how to tokenize the first wells. We tokenize them in the blockchain. So we've done the process through, and it's a sort of proof of concept. So I see my company more as a software information blockchain crypto company than actually an oil operator. I just had to go through the process of setting up to be an oil operator, and it was with partner Shane Fraser, who was high up in Shell, that helped me go through the whole process in Indiana, and we've been out there multiple times to go and do this. But ultimately, when you buy interest into oil wells, the last ones we bought this year was back in March. It took about 6 weeks from when we paid the money until the interests were transferred into our name. So when you buy interest into an oil well, for people to understand, it's actually the time that it takes for this to get transferred is all sort of antiquated through courthouses. So it's a long process for that. So we're talking about this technology and blockchain, but when it comes to actually the way the interest into these oil wells are held, it's still the same way they did it when we first started drilling for oil back over 100 years ago. So what have we done with Energy Tokens platform? So it's really been developed to address the problems facing the energy industry in this specific aspect of it. So we're not talking about the other projects other people are working on, because there's multiple projects. We're looking to basically change capital structures through tokenization and digitization to solve this problem itself. So what is the one there? So it's actually difficult to sell and buy fractional interest. The logo's covering the top corner of the presentation. So direct investments are made through private negotiated transactions. So right now, this is the way it's working. It's a bit of a closed shop, because ultimately the next point is non-industry investors. So you're sitting at home, unless you're an accredited investor, a high net worth investor, there's no way, and involved in the oil industry, is like, how do you buy interest into oil producing assets in Texas? It's basically nearly impossible. So there's no way for you to buy an asset that gives you distributions under an energy format right now. And this goes into renewable energy, coal, everything. It's very much a very closed shop. And now here's the other problem, and this is what we start to look at. So a lot of people know me from Zinecoin. We developed Zinecoin, and we're looking to develop this concept where we will create an underlying coin or token for the oil and gas industry, and people would use this. So right now there's $200 billion lost a year in the oil industry, basically on transactional fees and banking fees and international fees as well, when it goes from bank to bank to bank, and every bank takes its cut of this. So back in 2017, 18, 19, the concept was to actually create coins or tokens to replace this and save these costs. The problem was, you can see there's a problem to solve. We've created this coin to do this, but unless you got adoption from the super majors, essentially you're creating something that no one's going to use. Because unless the super majors use this coin and they all agree to use it, and then it's not going to work. So then we had to sort of pivot the model. We knew the technology was good, we just didn't understand where our place that it would come in order to get market adoption. So then you have to pivot the model. And the pivot the model was, well, let's look at it from a non-op interest point of view. So people are investing into these oil assets. And, traditionally in these small independent assets in America, the production is anywhere between 15 to 25 years. So say 20 years on average. So for 20 years, you've bought this asset that's giving you distributions in the decline curve. You're producing at the top most, and then it starts going down and down and down and down and down all the way along. So the problem is that you've got an asset that gives distributions, but it's very difficult for you to sell this asset because you've got a non-op interest holder. So the operator owns the most, the landowner, quite often the farmer, will own, say, 12.5 to 20%. You'll have different funds, pension funds, these guys coming in, private equity groups, and energy banks helping fund the project. And then it'll be out to a small investment pool of high net worth investors who are investing in the project themselves. But the problem is these funds or these high net worth investors, they've got the money locked into the life cycle of the project. Now, it's obviously profitable and that's why they do it, but really it's very difficult to sell these interests. So whereby if we flip this into a token, it sort of can solve these problems. So if you look at our solution and what we're trying to do and what we're creating is, so we're looking to set this up on sort of permission blockchain, data analysis using artificial intelligence. Now, these tokens that we're creating, they're not NFTs. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. This is different. This is a non-fungible security token. Now, I'll show the financial model in the next slide. But without getting into too much detail for this, if you think about an NFT backed against a piece of digital art, an NFST, a non-fungible security token, or an Energy NFST, we're trying to do the same model, but we're essentially doing this as a security token against the physical assets of oil and gas production. So within this token, that's what we put in. So to go through the slide and how it actually works, and this is the financial model. So ultimately what you're looking at is, the energy asset itself. So this information's analyzed. So we analyze the information the same way it's analyzed now. And this is what it's getting analyzed. It'll have the future production, it'll have the assets required, it'll have a valuation on the token, and essentially a top level valuation on the energy production itself, if it was an individual project. And people can get distributions of that. So these types of NFSTs, they're not going to be similar to cryptocurrencies because they're different, because a cryptocurrency doesn't really give any type of distributions. So a cryptocurrency is set up and you're investing in something that goes up and down in value. The difference is you're investing in this NFST, and as it produces energy, you get the distributions itself. So as we run through the model, we've got the energy asset, the information's analyzed, this information's recorded on the blockchain. This piece of it is where we're going to bring Garrett in as well, whereby we're going to build into the smart contract of the energy token, where we're going to track the CO2 emissions of that energy asset as well. So we want to build it in, and I know people are saying, well, I've got a patent for this, I've got to do this. Garrett's made this information open source. So I understand there's other people creating this type of technology out there, and Blockchain of Energy are also doing this as well. But what we're wanting to do is we're wanting this piece of it to be set up whereby any token that we create, we want to track the CO2 emissions of the token on the blockchain concurrently as we're running through this. And this is part of the model that we're developing. And all of this will be recorded on the blockchain. Now, the next bit is sort of key in terms of the NFST and how it's set up. See, it's not oil that gets tokenized. It's the equity ownership of this gets tokenized. So suddenly, if you think of the oil project, it's all broken down in percentages. The operator's got 40%, management team's got 5%, the farmer's got 15%, and 35% is non-op interest investors. Suddenly, this could be all split into like 1 million tokens, oil token 1, energy token 1. The difference is now is we're not changing how anything else works in terms of the production of the energy source. All we're looking to do is track the CO2 emissions as it goes through this process, and it means rather than you owning 1% of the oil project to get distributions, now you own 1,000 oil token 1, 1,000 energy token 1. And then what it'll do is you'll want to hold on to the token. And the transfer agent is going to be tracking this information all the time. So the transfer agent will be tracking who's got the tokens at any one time. People will have to come in, they'll have to go through a KYC, and the same way you have to do an account with Fidelity or Robin Hood apps or all things like that as well. So it's the same KYCs coming in. So all that part of the process is the same. What you've got is the transfer agents tracking that, and now they'll know who's got the tokens. So when it comes to do the distributions of the token, what actually happens at that specific moment in time is, if you've held onto the token this amount of period, you will get distributions. Now, the distributions you will get, currently in the oil industry, it's going to be US dollars. We're setting up that you'll be able to do the distributions in US dollars or euros, which can obviously be converted to any other currency, but we'll also want to do the distributions in Bitcoin, Ethereum. So you'll be able to actually get distributions in Bitcoin itself. So you'll actually be able to take Bitcoin, invest into these NFSTs, and then as it produces energy, you'll be able to get distributions in Bitcoin. And if you ever want to sell this asset, you'll be able to sell it through an SEC regulated ATS. Now, people are saying, well, why have you been doing this for so long, and why is it only becoming to market now? Really, it was only the end of last year, the beginning of this year, that these ATSs have come online. So, the leading players in America right now are the likes of Securitize, T0, and North Capital providing these services. But there's more and more companies coming in. And if you go and research those three companies themselves, you will see these guys have got, they've got broker dealers, they've got transfer agents, that trading system to be able to trade these tokens. And the way it'll work is you'll be able to trade these tokens through a MetaMask wallet or a Coinbase wallet itself. So where's the market opportunity? Well, before we just go into that as well in terms of the model, and then we'll get it finished with the presentation, is, the way you're thinking about it is renewable energy, because that's what we're talking about, this transition in energy. We speak about this all the time, the transition in energy, blockchain and energy. That's what these guys are looking at. They're looking at how they can become net zero in terms of oil and gas production, where they can hit this all the way through the supply chain, how they can basically cut the costs of oil production to keep supply chain costs down. But how can we transition for these massive energy operators who will be the companies that take us into renewable energy? Yes, there's going to be other companies out there, but these guys will lead the way. But if you think about renewable energy right now, I'm saying it's a closed shop to invest in oil and gas projects, and the difficulty our companies found this as a startup in the oil and gas sector to even own these interests in 90 wells. You try and invest into a wind farm and a solar farm right now. It's actually basically impossible. How do you own part of a solar farm? For retail investment, it's impossible. And I think this type of tokenization for oil and gas companies and energy companies is going to be key going forward, because these energy companies, I was at Shell's website, I go to their website sporadically looking what they're up to. If you start looking at the renewable energy project Shell's involved in now, it's amazing. These guys are on the cusp of all the technology change. Now, if Shell decided to tokenize part of a wind farm and part of a solar farm and make, say, 5% open for retail investment, Shell Renewable Energy Token 1, Shell would own the token. So, well, wait a minute, it's the Shell token, not Zion Coin. I like this idea better than I like that anyway. Secondly, it would allow mass adoption and a mass interest in what Shell are doing. Because right now, if you think of what's happening out there, people just think Shell's a bad guy, ExxonMobil's a bad guy, BP's a bad guy, Equinor used to be Statoil, involved in a lot of renewable energy, Norwegian company, bad guy, because they're oil companies. But they're involved in massive renewable energy projects. But people aren't aware of this information because they don't go to the website to see. Whereby if they opened up retail investment, so you sitting at home can own part of a Shell wind farm, and every quarter as they're selling electricity, you get some distributions from your Shell token, you'll be telling everyone, yeah, I've just bought into the Shell wind farm. Absolutely brilliant. It's a great way to put my money in right now. Inflation's going up at 8.5%, 9% it's on the UK today. Where I'm wanting to put my money, I could put my money into this Shell wind farm that's going to be producing electricity for the next 20 years. And every quarter, if I hold on to the Shell wind farm token, I can get distributions from it. And that changes the narrative for that, and it changes the thought process and what people are able to see with this. But if you think back to oil and gas as well, because it's like, to me, this is like our business model and the key opportunity with what energy tokens and what we're looking to do with our platform right now. Because no matter what we say, and no matter we want to move to green energy, the price of oil at $114 a barrel because of the war in Ukraine right now with Russia and Ukraine and all the supply chain problems this is creating, it's essentially putting the world into a global recession. We can't stop this right now. Oil price is so high because of this, because, Russia produces so much gas to the market space as well. We're still using this product. We all drive around cars. There's not that many Teslas, and if Teslas are coming out more and more expensive, how can people just all switch to this? So we're all going to need this product. We need gas to be lower, not higher, because it makes the cost of everything going up. But what you found in terms of the private equity in oil and gas in America, see, America is never going to run out of oil. That's the first thing we've got to understand. We're never going to run out of oil here. But because of legislation, it's been more and more difficult to get funding from the energy banks and private equity firms to invest in US oil and gas upstream projects. So even though the price of oil is $114 a barrel, because of legislation coming in, it's very difficult for them to start projects. And because of that, because we're wanting to look good from a political standpoint, whereby we should be increasing our production here right now to deal with demand, to force energy prices down, to get control of it. Why do we want to import more and more oil from Saudi Arabia? So they have a bigger control in the market space and keep going cap in hand to these guys. So if you look at just what's happened recently in investments in independent energy projects in America, right now, over $200 billion in 2018 came from private equity and energy banks. Last year, this dropped to less than $20 billion. So this is where I see the market opportunity for what we're doing with energy tokens and our journey that's taken to this point. Because you sitting at home might think, well, I want to go green, I want to do this, I want to do that as well, but we're still needing this investment money going forward. So there's an $180 billion hole in the marketplace in terms of gap to invest in new oil projects on the market space in the US. So if we start to tokenize these projects, now if you're running a small operator and you're making a lot of money, yeah, you've got me there, but even these guys are making money. They're still finding it difficult to raise capital to do the next energy project. And not everyone's making enough money without going out to the market space to borrow to make the money. That's how it works, people. But if you create an energy token whereby suddenly you can go to the crypto community and you can say to them, listen, I've got this project. We're going to tokenize it. This project we're going to track the carbon emissions on it as well. And we'll show you the carbon emissions compared to this project and we'll even offset this by buying carbon credits with the Honduras government. So we'll be able to do all this anyway to essentially make our project net zero. What our model is within energy tokens is we want to set this up. Now, obviously, if Shell's looking at that going, I'm not giving this guy 1% of my energy project. Obviously, if we made an energy token from Shell, it'll be 0.0001 of your project, as a transactional fee of what actually happens. The other people using as capital raising mechanisms, we're looking to help them do this. And then people from the crypto community, you're sitting at home thinking, well, wait a minute, I want to own an energy project. And if you're looking to develop a wind farm or a solar farm, and you're looking to raise capital for this as well, it's like suddenly an energy token going out to this community out there. And then people sitting at home might be thinking, well, I've not really got into crypto. I've not really got into this, but I understand this technology's coming in. These NFSTs, non-fungible security tokens, drop us a message, come in and ask us what you're looking for this. And then ultimately, it's basically what you're looking at in terms of buying into an energy project that you've never been able to do before in the past. And this is what this technology is allowing us to do.